In today's video, you are going to learn how to push down into the ground with a weaker leg. That is the result of a neurologic injury. Now, if you have this issue, you know that it can impact your walking, it can impact your ability to go up and down stairs if you cannot get a good push into the ground. So in this video, you are going to learn one simple exercise that you can start doing today to improve your ability to push down into the ground, which will help you walk up and down stairs and definitely improve your walking confidence. If you're new to this channel, I'm Tara. I'm a neurologic physical therapist, and on this channel we talk about anything and everything related to mobility, health, fitness, and mindset to empower you with as many tools as possible to reach your highest maximum level after a neurologic injury. Today we're going to cover a pretty common problem that occurs after a neurologic injury, and that is the inability to coordinate the muscles in the leg to actually push into the ground when you're going up and down stairs or when you're just loading that leg during walking. A lot of times after you've had damage to your brain or your spinal cord that has resulted in weakness in your leg, you very quickly learn how to use what we call like synergy patterns. And if you've been around here for a while, you know I talk about this quite a bit on this channel, but an extensor synergy pattern, it's kind of like an ingrained primitive pattern. If you ever look at babies, they're either all extension or all flexion. And then as their brains develop, they learn how to coordinate movement. For those of you that have been around for a while, I do talk about this quite a bit, but it's always good to give the explanation because it helps the exercise to make a little bit more sense. But a lot of you use an extensor synergy pattern because it's just something that you started to use immediately following your stroke, and you're just kind of in the habit of using it, or your brain's in the habit of resorting to this kind of built-in pattern. So some people believe after a stroke that you go through stages of recovery. Just like a baby develops initially they move in patterns and then they move out of patterns, meaning they go from all extension, all flexion, and then eventually they learn how to crawl, and that's when they're starting to kind of break out of these primitive patterns. So one belief system is that we go through those same stages after a neurologic injury. And so many times people learn how to walk after a stroke using an extensor synergy pattern. So what does that mean? It means you're either all flexion or all extension or all flexion, and you kind of skip over that phase where you have to actually coordinate muscle groups out of what we call out of a synergy pattern. So where you will see this emerge, if this is something that you are struggling with, meaning you rely on an extensor synergy pattern to support your body weight when you're standing, is if you sit in a chair. So when you're sitting, you're breaking up that pattern. And so when your hip is flexed, your knee is going to want to stay flexed. Why is that a problem when you're sitting? Well, if you're sitting and you lean onto a weaker leg, this is my weaker leg, if you lean onto a weaker leg, your hip has to extend to push you back, but your knee is flexed. So if your knee is flexed, your hip is gonna have a hard time doing that extension because it's out of a synergy pattern. Remember, a synergy pattern, think of that baby, all extension, all flexion. If you need your hip to extend and your knee is flexed and you've become reliant on an extensor synergy pattern, that means those two things want to happen at the same time. If you are sitting and you start to lean towards the weaker side, you cannot push into the ground to right yourself or bring your body back to vertical or bring your trunk back within your base of support. So many of you know this because if you go down and you try and lean and reach for your foot on your involved side, you fall over, you tip over, you lose your balance, or you have to grab onto something with your stronger hand to kind of push yourself back. That's one way you will know that you're reliant on an extensor synergy pattern. So why is all of that important? Because it gets to what we're gonna work on today, which is learning how to push into the ground, work on hip extension with knee flexion. Why is this so valuable? Well, when you're going up and down, when you go upstairs, you do the same thing, your knee is flexed and you kind of want to extend that hip. But more importantly, you want to be able to sit and lean to that side and not tip over. And so the way we're gonna do that is we're gonna do that with this pelvic rocker. You guys have seen this before, but I recently went through a series of exercises with a patient with this, and it is dramatically improving his ability to sit and not be scared when he leans onto that side, but it's also helping with his confidence with his walking. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna sit on this disc. It's kind of like a dome. And the first thing you're gonna do, if this is your weaker side, okay, you are going to grab on to the mat with your stronger arm, and I just want you to lean to this side. The reason you're doing this is you're first just getting comfortable leaning onto that side and being able to bring yourself back up. Being able to hold on will make you feel a little bit less afraid, and it'll be easier for you to try and engage the muscles that you need to be able to bring yourself back. So we're just getting used to leaning onto a weaker side and being able to bring yourself back. And again, hold on for this at the beginning, okay? Leaning to that weaker side, bringing yourself back, leaning to that weaker side, bringing yourself back, okay? Next step is you're gonna place your hand on your leg. This is where it gets a little bit scary, especially if you are someone who relies on an extensor synergy pattern to get any push with this leg. Don't take this exercise for granted. True story, the first time this patient had lifted his hand up, he just tipped right over. Okay, so do not underestimate the difficulty of this exercise. It looks simple, but if you have this issue, your leg is not gonna kick in to push you back, okay? So just sit first and then just do a little bit of a tip, okay? Tiny, tiny tip. All you're trying to do is get used to kind of putting weight on that leg and being able to push yourself back. Tiny tip, bring yourself back. And then tip a little bit more, and bring yourself back. Another hand position you can do is actually putting your stronger arm on your weaker leg, and when you tip, kind of pushing down into that leg. Tip, push down into that leg. Tip, push down into that leg, okay? Then the next one you're gonna do is you're going to do like a karate chop. So you're gonna bring your hands out in front, and I want you to bring your hands down to the outside of this leg, and then up and across your body. Now for this one, what you're trying to do is just keep your hips still. Try not to let them rock at all, okay? So you're just gonna bring it down. So that means right here, your body weight's shifting more to this side. That dome is gonna wanna tip. That's when you really gotta push down with this leg. So down, up and across. Down. Now right here is where you really need to think and pay attention. If this is your weaker leg, think and pay attention to push with that leg to be able to bring yourself back up, okay? Down, push with that leg, and back up. All right, and then if you wanted to challenge yourself a little bit more, and this is for those of you that are a little bit higher level and you really are at a point where you can start doing stuff with a little bit of weight. But make sure you can do that karate chop first. You're gonna take a weight, bring it down, and then try and lift it up and set it back over on this side of you. Lift it over, down, and then back up. Now you don't want to be tipping all over the place. Your job is to really push down with this leg when you bring it down and back up. And again, down and back up. And then one other one that I like with this dome, and I've shown this exercise before, but is just to put something under your foot and just do a reach. You're just reaching up with your opposite hand. Now, the value of this one is you have to keep your hips in the middle, which can be a challenge, but then you also have to push down with your leg, because when you pull the band up, if you don't push down with that leg, the band is going to come out from under you. So that's another way that you know whether or not you really have the ability to push down with that foot. Whether you're sitting on the dome or not, just take a band and put it underneath your foot and try and pull it up with your opposite hand. That's a good test to know if you are using primarily an extensor synergy pattern when you're walking, or if you really have the ability to coordinate this leg in, again, what we call like an out of synergy pattern. But that's just a few variations of things that I really, really like to do with this dome. If this is something that you would like to purchase, link to purchase it and learn more about it is in the description below. If you want more exercises kind of out of synergy, click on this playlist somewhere over here on this side, and you'll get to a lot more videos where I do other exercises working on, again, what we call like out of synergy movements with your legs. If you're new to this channel and you haven't yet subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. I enjoyed spending time with y'all today, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a good day.